Welcome, Allison. Episode number
30.
30. Saca la cuenta.
How do you say that again?
Saca la cuenta. 30. That's 30.
30.
Mhm.
30. Okay.
Well, that's
That's a lot.
third of almost third
Third of what?
of 100.
Oh, of 100. I thought you were saying a third of the year. I was like, there are 52 weeks. Anyway,
we have a very interesting conversation today.
We have a very interesting conversation with Justin Douglas with the company called Lumio, and they do solar panel sales.
Yeah, what are your thoughts about solar panel?
That's my thoughts from a real estate perspective on solar panels. I've sold one house with solar panels. And it was a challenge. From the financing perspective to just the contact or lack thereof with the solar panel company to finding buyers who were willing to take on solar panels.
Yeah, and that's an issue that has been throughout the years. You know, the lack of accountability.
Yes.
From companies that they speak really well. They say, you know, this is your panels. You know, you can buy them outright or you can lease them. Now, it is my understanding that Justin works for a company that has a new option, which is a loan.
Yes. So, and Justin's a client of mine. And one thing I can say about him is he truly believes in solar. You know, he's not one of these salespeople that's just selling something for the paycheck. He really is invested in this and believes that this is a great option for renewable energy. So let's take a listen and see what he has to say.
Let's listen. And welcome, Justin. How you doing today, man?
What's up, y'all? Doing great.
Thank you so much for coming on and taking the time to talk with us today. So, Carlos, Justin is a client of mine that, gosh, we met back in what, February? Yeah. Sometime around then.
Yeah.
But he actually is in solar panel sales, which I thought would be a great topic for our podcast because it's a question we get all the time.
All the time, Justin.
In real estate. You know, are solar panels worth the money? Do they increase the value of my home, decrease the value of my home? So tell us a little bit about you, the company that you work for, and give us the scoop.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Hopefully I can be a value add to whether it's homeowners listening or even agents or brokers. Because you're right, solar is a controversial topic and a lot is changing. So, I'm excited to at least give you guys, at least what I have found. I've been in solar sales for almost 5 years. Started as a little door-to-door sales guy, so I'm sorry if you had a door-to-door salesperson come by. I trained them, okay? So be nice to them. But
we try to be nice to those people because we don't want people running us off when they see us. So
yeah, so it's fun. It's definitely an interesting job. You meet a lot of cool people. But I happened to join solar because I was always wanting to get into sales. I like the aspect of working with people. So I thought about real estate, mortgages, thought about insurance. But I found that, the industry is shifting and how people buy their power. And so whenever I was sitting down looking at the studies, 30 to 40% of Europe and other countries have made the switch to renewable energy, specifically residential renewable energy. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. What is the U.S. sitting at? And the United States was at less than 3%.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Wow, that's a big, growth opportunity. Why are we not making the switch? And I think this is what I found out is most people don't know how solar works. They don't know the financial gain. They don't know the risks. They don't know the pros or the cons. And that's where Lumio came into existence. I helped, when I first started, we were actually a company called Enlightened Energy. We grew it to, somewhere around $300 million within the first 2 years. We merged, became a company called Lumio, worth about $2 billion, been listed on Forbes, CNET, Yahoo Finance, and we're looking to actually go public. And our main focus was informing homeowners. It was, hey, how can we get the information about solar into homeowners' hands without being salesy, without being pushy, without being manipulative, doing it the right way? And I caught on. I thought it was a great product. I thought the mission behind the company was great. And obviously, like, it's worked out really well for us. So I came to Columbia, South Carolina about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. Yeah, right at 2 years ago. And I happen to be here, grow the market, work with a lot of college students, and helping with their sales skills, and then also helping reach the demographics here. Our office does somewhere between $30 to $40 million in revenue a year, which is pretty awesome. Get the opportunity to lead that, and so yeah, like that's kind of the gist behind me and behind Lumio. And I'm here to answer any questions you guys have. I have a couple things that I think might help, but
I
that
do.
answers your question.
I do have a couple of questions. First one, Lumio, the company that you work for, do you manufacture your own panels and your own equipment?
Good question. So, no, I don't even think there is a solar sales company that manufactures their own equipment. Sales guys aren't really good at engineering
Okay.
products.
So
Right?
Lumio is just
We're kind of simple.
Lumio is mostly sales and service, correct? And installation.
Correct. Yeah, so Lumio handles everything from the customer engagement to the sales process, permitting, getting it installed, and then the post-sale services. But all the equipment will come from manufacturers. In fact, what's really cool is Columbia just had, this is good for people here in Columbia, there's a company called Enphase Technology. It's the #1 microinverter producer for solar, right? Commercial and residential, they're massive. They just moved their manufacturing facility to West Columbia.
You have
So it's
to
great for jobs.
you have to educate us a little bit on what is microinverter.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what happens is when a solar panel sits on a home, it makes energy, but it's not usable. You have to invert that energy into usable energy, right? So every panel has and what a microinverter does is each panel has its own inverter attached to it.
Okay.
Making the energy usable, right? So that's what a microinverter does.
Okay, so you're saying that West Columbia now has a manufacturer for that.
Yep, for one of the #1 microinverter companies in the world. So it's kind of awesome.
That's really good to know.
So what would be, for example, let's play a little bit of a role play here to make it easier for us to get the questions that many homeowners install. What's your main pitch? You're approaching me, I'm a homeowner, and we meet. And I show you some interest on learning about, I'm not committed yet, but I want to learn a little bit more about solar panel.
Yeah. So what I typically go over with homeowners are three areas. One, how does it work with the power company, right? Because some people think that if you were to go solar, that you're completely excommunicating Dominion Energy or Mid Carolina or your local power company, but that's not the case. You actually need them whenever you have solar on your home. I think this is really good to know, and then I'll jump over to point number 2. It's before you had to purchase batteries to store energy. I'm sure you guys have seen on Facebook, Tesla Powerwalls and Generac, generator that are a battery to store energy. Well, those jokers are 20 to 30 grand. They ain't free. Like, they're $20,000 to $30,000, and that's where a lot of people had to pay out of pocket. There was an upfront cost involved with solar. But nowadays, the government mandates some of the power companies to act as the battery for the homeowner. So it's called the net meter program. So all the panels make energy, and it actually gets stored at the power company for you. They'll just send you energy back whenever you need it. It's called net metering. So
how do you?
As a homeowner, I explain how all that works.
Yeah, how do you transmit that power that you generate in my house? How do you generate that to your? And I believe that you should have a battery storage facility somewhere locally.
The power company would act as the battery is the analogy that we would use. So you're still a client of, let's say you're with Dominion Energy, their main provider in the area. You're still going to be a client of Dominion Energy. They're just acting as a battery / pseudo bank account. So, example, if your home made $100 worth of energy, okay, all $100 has to be stored somewhere before you can use it.
Correct.
Right? Just like a bank account. If I got paid $100 today, like they're not handing it to me in cash. It goes to my bank account, and then I can pull from my bank account as much as I need. So you're going to make $100 worth of energy. You're going to store it at Dominion Energy. This month, let's say you only need $80 worth of power. That's cool. You only pull $80 from Dominion. You have $20 left over. It just rolls over month after month after month after month, and it continues to accumulate.
And Dominion, does Dominion charge extra for storing power?
No, you're just going to continue to pay your account charge. Every power company has a base fee to have their meter on the side of the house. So you'll always pay that depending on your power company. Mid-Carolina is like $30 a month, and Dominion somewhere around $10 a month.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, if you had any idea what that account fee would be. So
you already pay it. If you look at your power bill, you'll see exactly what your account fee is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's charging you outside of the power that you're buying from the power company.
And I'm probably an irresponsible consumer because I don't look at that because I have to have power. So just pay the bill. Of course you do. So, Justin, for example, this summer we had lots of sunny days. So I'm assuming people probably accumulated more power during that time than they would, say, as we're going into the fall and winter, where it's more dreary. Is that correct?
And shorter days.
Shorter days, too.
It depends, right? It depends on everybody has a different habit and lifestyle. Some people like their AC at 80 degrees and 78 degrees in the summer. Well, guess what? They're going to make more energy than they use, right? Because in the winter, they crank up their heat. In the winter, they're using more power than what they're making is fine. On the flip, for my house, you go to my house right now, it's set at 69 degrees. That's what I keep it at. So my summer bills they're hot, right? They're $700 a month, right? They're extremely high because I'm using a lot of power, right? But my winter, I mean, dude, I like it cold, so I don't use any energy. So I'm actually making more power during my winter months than I am in my summer months. So my winter time, I'm banking, I'm saving all my extra electricity. So when the summertime comes around and my AC's cranking, I can actually pull that energy. But every home is different. So what we do as a company is we want to get your individual power bill, take a look at what your needs are over the last 12 months. How much power are you using? We're going to look at your roof, how much sunlight hours you get, the pitch and angles, how many panels you need. So that way we can generate a custom proposal to see how many panels are needed. Because the whole end goal is for you to not have a power bill with the power company. Who wants to pay the power company? They're not giving you any financial gain. There's no payoff. There's no increased property value potentially. There's nothing. They're just going to continue to raise the rates.
So what are we... Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
What are we looking at cost-wise? I mean, okay, so sounds good. I can bank energy, use energy, pay my $10 a month because I'm on Dominion. But what am I looking at out of pocket if I'm interested in this?
Yeah, so first thing is, there's no out-of-pocket costs. I've never had a client in 5 years that they had to write me a check, make a down payment, or make any type of investment, right? To me, that's the biggest myth bust in solar. People think that there's upfront costs, so therefore they have to wait 5, 6, 7 years to get a return on their investment. Solar is not an investment. It's a terrible investment. You don't invest in solar. Solar is just a power bill. The biggest picture is looking at we are just going to be a federal power company versus your local power company. You have to pay one or the other. You either pay the solar panel company or you pay the power company.
Okay,
so
but there is...
Say, what is your cost, right? It's dependent, right? Because everybody uses a little bit more, uses a little bit less, so we customize it. But example, if I go to a home and it's $200 a month to the power company every single year, and that's subject to continue to increase with no payoff date, then what we do is we say, hey, we're going to generate the exact same amount of electricity that you're getting from the power company. But the difference is we're going to do it through solar. We're going to give you a fixed rate bill. It will never increase for 25 years. There's no out-of-pocket costs. And it's 160 to 180, depending on what they qualify for. So they actually save money the very first month.
And that's the money that you pay in order to get the installation, to get the manufacturing, to so you're basically talking about a lease, correct? You're leasing the gear, you're leasing the panels, you're financing, you're assuming the cost of the solar panels. However,
so there's two ways to do solar. You can either buy it or you can lease it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you lease it, there's no loan involved. There's no, I don't even need someone's social. We just give them our panels and they pay us. That's the lease option. The loan option is you can purchase the panels yourself, but there's still no down payment.
So
no upfront cost. You can buy the panels and have an end date where you own the panels. You can pay them off in 10 years, 15, 20, it doesn't matter. Every time I pin it out, every time, I swear, every time I pin it out, as long as they have good sun hours on their roof, they save money the very first month, and they save money over time. So if someone's moving in 12 to 18 months, well, why should I get solar if I'm moving in 12 to 18 months? I'll never see a return on my investment. Right, that's how solar was before when you had to invest. All I'm going to do is just put solar on that home, make all the energy while you live there, and it's going to be cheaper. It's cheaper to make your energy on your rooftop than get it from the power company.
So what if, now that you're mentioning the sale situation, right? Because that's the one that we get exposed to a lot of the time. I signed a contract with you. How long do you usually run those lease contracts? What's the minimum time commitment?
It depends on what the client wants.
Okay, so let's say...
Typically do a 25-year guarantee.
25-year. Okay, so let's say that that's a long commitment, by the way, you know. But let's say, hey, I want to give solar a shot, you know, but I don't think that I'm going to be living in this house for more than 2 years. And there's no guarantee that the person that comes behind me actually wants to have a solar panel on the roof, you know, because they don't care, they don't want it. They've heard stories about the leaking roof and people destroying their shingles or whatever it is, you know. They don't want it. They don't want it. They don't believe in that. They don't want it. What would you tell to that situation?
Yeah. So I get that question for every single client. And you guys are in real estate, and those listening, you guys get it. Like, people aren't going to be in a home for 30 years. Like, I signed a 30-year mortgage with Allison, right? Bro, I ain't going to be there for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
No, you were like, I might be here too.
So, like, that's the biggest, like, hurdle that people have to overcome is understanding what happens when I move. So the first thing that Lumio and the solar industry did was take a look at every possible reason why someone couldn't go solar and provide a solution, like leaks in the roof. Cool. We'll just provide a 25-year leak warranty. Guarantee. Done. What if the panels break? 25-year warranty. Done. Right? So we can solve these problems. Same thing with moving. That was a big problem before because you had to stay in the home forever or the next person had to want to do the solar, right? So like that's where I think the biggest thing that we need the most in the industry between, you know, real estate and solar is to come together, right? And problem solve. Rather than real estate agents, because I've been on the phone with them and they're like, F solar, F you guys, it doesn't make sense. But the homeowner's sitting with me going, it makes sense to me. Well, something's not adding up.
Yeah.
So the number one thing that I would challenge every single real estate agent is to be open-minded and every single homeowner is to be open-minded, right? This change is going to happen. The government's pushing for it. We don't have a choice. So if you know, the number one business lesson I've ever learned is to adapt. Adapt or die, right? My company is generating 1,000 to 2,000 homes a week with solar. So that's 1,000 to 2,000 less clients that real estate agents are not going to go and sell because they're unfamiliar with how solar works, right? So if you want to have a competitive edge as a brokerage or as a real estate agent, you know, get some training with a local power company, with a local solar company and saying, okay, we're seeing every 10 homes in California have solar. Like, how do I sell it? South Carolina is the third most moved to state because it has a low cost of living. So people are going to be looking for those low costs of living. And if someone has a solar panel on their roof that's giving them a lower power bill and the cost of living is lower, more people are going to want to buy that and look into that.
Yeah. So Justin, let's say this, you know, client has had solar through Lumio on their house for 2 years. I go on the listing appointment. What do I need to know about this contract that they're in with Lumio? How do I present that to potential buyers? Is it something that they can terminate at any time? Is it something that is transferable to the next buyer at the cost that seller is locked into now? Can they have the panels removed if they don't want them? What are the options for us as real estate agents?
Yeah. So here's the cold hard truth, right? The biggest issue before was that the panels were not transferable, right? So they had to take the total cost of the 25-year loan. Let's say the panels were $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
They would take a $300,000 home, and they would have to assume a $50,000 debt on top of it. Well, good luck selling a home that's worth $300,000 for $350,000. Doesn't add up, right?
Exactly.
So that's how it happened before, and I think that's what scares a lot of people. The way that solar works now, as long as it's done by a decent company, most of the bad companies have either gone bankrupt or left, right? Is that you make it transferable, right? So what happens is if the bill is $200 a month, even though it's $50,000 on paper over 25 years, which, I mean, you're going to pay the power company that anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're in a contract with Dominion. When you guys have a listing, do you guys go in and say, hey, you're stuck with Dominion, they had a 14% rate increase.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. You're subject to pay over the next 30 years $60,000 to Dominion. Are you okay with buying the home? No.
So you don't have
what's happening.
You don't have any pay increases.
With solar, what happens with solar is that you can actually go ahead and put it on a lower rate and a fixed rate, bring that cost of living down. So if you were to list it, if it was already a paid off solar panel system, then you can easily say, hey, this power is being generated from solar. Your power bill from the power company should be nothing, right? Unless you need more. That's a huge gain for the next homeowner. Two, if there's still leftover payments on the loan or the lease, you just transfer that monthly bill to the next homeowner, just like you would with Dominion Energy or Mid Carolina. You call in, hey, I got to get my power set up, and then that monthly bill is already lower. It's already fixed. It just has to change ownership. So it's a transferable program. And I'll say this, right? Like, this is exactly what I do if I'm with a homeowner, right? Who is very unfamiliar. Is I'm like, okay, let's be super logical. If the power bill is less, it is guaranteed and locked in, and I can provide predictability, right? Why would someone say no to that?
So
why would someone say no?
I think that, yeah, I mean, you've really debunked a couple of the myths that comes with solar panels, because you're giving logic answers to the concerns, the most common concerns. I think that at the end of the day, what it comes down is that somebody truly believes that they don't want to have a solar panel on their house, and they come and see a house that has solar panels on them. It's gonna be a letdown for them, and the house sale, could be affected because of that. And a market where it's a strong seller's market, yeah, that doesn't matter. Move on to the next buyer. But like we're experiencing right now, it's a slower market for certain properties. Any single buyer that you can get means savings. And the point that I want to make is that if there is a shift on culture regarding solar, I can see how that can be a huge benefit. And you're working on it. You're probably right there in that inflection point, in that point where we still have a lot of negativity from those companies that went bankrupt, or they didn't provide a good customer service, or you hear a lot of horror stories about people leaving behind the solar panels, and now the homeowners have to pay to remove the solar panels and to fix all the damage that they did to the roof. Yeah. That is the most common one that we have. What's the guarantee that that's not going to happen with your company?
Yeah, so, dude, that's a great question. That's what I run into all the time. It is the hardest part about my job.
Yeah.
That's it. When I do my trainings, it is always about lack of understanding. That is the number one reason people do not get behind solar, is because they don't have clear understanding on how it works, or there was improper sales tactics. I I would say this, that, if you are a real estate agent, it would behoove you to not study how it works, because you could be leaving potential economic gain for yourself and for your homeowner on the table when you could sell your home for more value. So I'll answer your question, but here's the data, and you can go Google it. And some of these resources are trustworthy, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Zillow says that your home value sells 22% faster with solar. From all the homes that were sold, 22%. Berkshire Hathaway, UC Berkeley Labs, Realtor.com, Rocket Mortgage say that your home values can increase anywhere from 4 to 8% with solar on your property. One second, I have somebody coming in.
Yeah, go ahead. We still don't have that option on our MLS when you have a search criteria that you put, like, for example, prices or waterfronts, county, schools. We still don't have that solar panel option.
I think you hit the nail on the head at the beginning of our conversation. A lot of it is location specific. It's location as far as like California, where they have a power issue as it is. So I can see where solar would be huge. And we are having a conversion as things, and we know the East Coast, everything hits, about 10 years later than the West Coast. So yeah, I think a lot of it is location specific. Like Carlos said, our MLS is not even caught up to us having that as an option on our featured sheets.
Yeah.
Oh, and that brings...
The biggest thing is, we know that it's going to shift.
Yeah.
And you can look at, and again, that's where it comes to education. It's like, that will never happen here. Okay, look at the cost of power increases just in the last 3 years from Dominion. 30%. That's unheard of, right? So you look at that, number one, and then two, you just look at who's moving here. Third most moved to state. Great market for homeowners, great market for real estate agents. If someone had a home and they were side by side and they were identical, but one had solar with a lower fixed rate, why would someone not want that? You have to think logical. How you list that, that's up to you. You're the real estate agents. I'm not that guy, right? I can only point the logic. To answer your question before, why is Lumio going to do it different? I guess the only way to say that is, we have a proven track record, right? We're a little bit more regulated, corporatized. And then second, we do everything in-house. So we don't want to subcontract out the electric or the install or the permits. We want to be able to control every part of the process to give the best experience to the homeowners possible. So that way, we can have a partnership with real estate agents, or they feel like, hey, this is a good company. Let me just call the local manager and let's figure out how to get this transferred over, right? Or let's pull up the contract and it's an easy read situation. Here's my bill. Here's what it's next year. Here's the rest of my payoff. Just to make it more simplified. But again, I think it just goes back to working together, being open-minded instead of constantly trying to be the devil's advocate and shut down. It's like for homeowners and for agents, it's like, how can we make this a financial gain for homeowners and make a financial gain for real estate agents? I cannot find a loss in a lot of ways.
I have another scenario that actually I went through not too long ago. When you install your panels, do you look at the age of the roof, and do you have a minimum age or a maximum age? And the reason that I'm asking this is because I had a situation where they installed solar panels on a 15, 20-year-old roof, and not too long after that, they had to replace the roof. It was shingles were just falling down, so there was no patch-up work in there. And the homeowner faced a big bill having to remove the panels, replace the roof, and then reinstall the panels. Obviously, when you look at the big picture and you look at the numbers, if you have to pay, say, $10,000 extra, just to or $5,000 extra, that wipes out the savings.
Right.
So what would be your response in that scenario?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways to handle it. Is one, we don't want to put solar on a roof that's shitty and falling apart. Sorry if I can't curse.
No, that's fine. She doesn't let me, but she doesn't let me curse. But I think that you're good.
You're good.
So one, we want to inspect the roof to make sure it's in good shape. We don't want to give the homeowner a 25-year roof or leak warranty right, if it's going to be damaged, right? That's a bad business practice for us and a bad business decision for the homeowner. So that's number one. We always inspect it. We want to make sure it's in good shape. If it's a really old roof, 15 to 20 years, usually we tell them, hey, you have to replace this or we're not going to warranty. If you still want to do solar, sign the waiver. It's not my responsibility, right? So that's number one. Number two, what I have found is most people, when they get a roof replacement, they just go through their insurance, right? Because of hail damage or a tornado. So what happens is they'll pay their deductible. The insurance company will then contact us, and through the insurance claim, they'll pay us to come remove the panels, store them, and then reinstall them. And then they'll sometimes even have us do the roof because we have, contractors in the area that we use for roofing that we trust. So a lot of times, all you have to pay as a homeowner is just the deductible, and that covers the cost of the roof and then the replacement, the reinstallation of your panels, called DNR, detach and reset. Third scenario, it's the shitty one. It's the one that your insurance doesn't cover it, right? You've gone 20 years. Now you have to get your roof replaced. And, again, insurance covers it 90% of the time, but you still want to cover that, hey, this is the possible scenario that, you have to pay for the removal of the panels. And you have to pay for it to be reinstalled. That's called DNR. And it fluctuates with labor costs, anywhere from $100 to $200 per panel. So we're not wrenching anybody. Sometimes it's only $1,200. Sometimes that's $2,000. Sometimes what we do is we take that cost and we just, what's the word? We can readjust our contract and just add it into the monthly bill rather than them coming out of pocket $2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lumio is not here to screw someone over.
Yeah.
We want people to save the most amount of money and have the best experience possible. Tell all their friends and family. And if they feel like they have to pay $5,000 out of pocket 3 years down the road, that's going to make us not look too good, right?
Yeah.
So those are some solutions that we have. So hopefully that answers your question.
They pretty do. Do you have any more?
I don't think so, Justin. I really appreciate your time. You've helped make me think of solar a bit differently, and especially as far as good questions that we need to ask when we come in contact with a home that has solar. And we also now have a great resource to call up and say, hey, this situation we're working with, what do you know about it and what do you suggest? So
yeah, that's the biggest thing I'd say is, guys, feel free to share my number. I'm an open book. I'm here to help you guys win. I'm here to help the homeowners win. My challenge and request is to get with a solar guy and get sold on it, right? Actually go through the entire presentation, give them the hard questions, make them sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
And, the worst case is that you walk away with more information, which you can put in your pocket, that can help what's going to happen in 5-10 years. So, or even now. Again, doing pretty well right now as well. So.
Well, yeah. It does sound like a very interesting option. Justin, we're running out of time, but I think that you answered pretty well a lot of our questions, and I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, what'd you think?
I must say I'm a little bit more convinced than I was before.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. So I think that he did a pretty good job explaining, like he said, an open book type. He seemed very genuine, and he seemed like all the answers that that we got. I think that they were pretty straightforward and actually made sense.
Yeah.
I don't think that there was something hidden in there. I do still believe that we're not quite there yet to be able to say the stigma is gone.
Correct. And like I said, I believe so much of real estate is location specific, as well as just the changes that we're seeing again in renewable energy. He said it's huge in California. We're not there yet, but I think it's very important because it is here for us to understand it more so that we can better, not so much educate, because I can't educate anybody on it, but I know somebody who can.
Yeah, I mean, and the truth is that if you actually have every single house in the planet producing their own energy, at the end of the day, it'll be a cleaner world,
Yeah.
It's still not perfect, I believe, but it's definitely a step forward into it. So it's a very interesting, and I think that maybe 50 years from now, when you're, what,
49.
105? 50 years
I'm
from
going to
now,
age backwards.
yeah, we'll be looking back as the same way that we look back at cell phones,
Yeah,
and say,
absolutely.
hey, how come we were living without it? I mean, there is a possibility out there that that's the conversation in 50 years. There's also a possibility that in 50 years, like, look at these crazy idiots installing all the solar panels in there. But I believe after having that conversation with Justin, we're leaning towards the every single house will be able to produce their own energy.
Or at least some of it.
Yeah, and obviously the management is going to come from the power companies. I think that, we're pretty far away from having. I mean, ideally, do you think what I always thought that
you could live off the grid with
yeah,
them?
that you can
you
100.
can't. Well, I mean,
Well,
I guess you can if you buy the, what did he say,
the
$30,000 battery
the
pack.
$30,000 battery pack.
But that's exactly what I thought when
Mhm.
he said, the power company is storing it. And I thought, gosh, all these people who were thinking they could live off the grid with solar panels, it's not quite as easy as I thought it was.
Well,
So,
the technology is definitely evolving. Definitely getting better. I mean, you see with electric cars out there, there are more and more and more electric cars, and there's people that like it. There's people that don't like them. There's people that believe in them. There's people that don't believe in them.
little something for everybody.
I did rent a Tesla not too long ago. I can tell you, it was the engine output. It was unbelievable. The
Yeah,
acceleration
it
and,
is.
and the power of that car and the simplicity, but at the same time, all the stuff. I was sold on that area. There were a couple things that I really didn't like.
Like having to plug it in.
having to plan. We took
Plan
a
all
trip.
your stops. That's the problem.
It was a trip to upstate New York, so we had to drive, I don't know, 300 miles. So it was kind of a planning. I had actually, on one of the last nights, I had to skip dinner with my friends and family so I can go and charge and then come back. I mean, those are little stuff that eventually will get better.
Yeah.
I believe so. I believe that it's going to get there. Is electric cars, is solar, are electric cars, are solar panels the solution for that? Maybe. At least it's something that we're seeing, that we're getting in there.
If nothing else, it's good to educate ourselves and learn more. So if anybody wants to learn more about solar panels, Justin Douglas with Lumio is a great contact, and we appreciate him being on the show.
Yeah, and feel free to ask us, what do we think about solar panels? Because if there is an answer that we don't know, well, at least we have Justin on our speed dial.
That's right.
It can happen. Anyway, we're running out of time. We're a little bit past beyond the time.
Yeah.
So
Shocking.
we're going to change our name to 35 minutes. 37, I don't know. Anyway, bye. See you next week.
Thanks for listening.